If you didn't understand before, I hope you understand now. Because you're now listening to the We Talking podcast brought to you by Island Girl Team. This podcast, we are literally talking about every and anything with your girl, Kamilah Gumbs. So subscribe from wherever you get your podcast and get ready to talk. Welcome to episode 5 of the We Talking podcast. And today I have Mr. Ralph Cantave, who is a up-and-coming journalist here in St. Martin. And I'm very, very excited to talk about his life being a journalist and his personal journey as well. So welcome, Ralph.
Thank you so much, Kamilah, for inviting me. I definitely look forward to this conversation.
Yeah, so before we get into the conversation, can you just tell people a little bit about yourself? Who is Ralph?
Sure. It's funny. I usually always ask people this question, and I realize sometimes it's kind of hard to answer because you're like, where do I start?
Yep.
But as you said, well, I'm a journalist here on the island, also an author, entrepreneur, happily married to my dear wife, Charity. And in addition to that, I'm a man of God, a man of faith, and yeah, I'm just a proud Caribbean man as well. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Well, I feel like that encompasses, wow, I can't say words today, basically everything you are. So we could just jump into the first conversation. So of course, we know when we talk about journalism in St. Martin, we have our peak eras, and then we have this very like social media phase, etc. So what actually motivated you and pushed you to become a journalist, and does that same motivation pushes you today?
It does. So basically, my love for journalism, even writing in particular, started off with my love for history. I always credit my high school homeroom teacher, Mr. Kenneth Cook, who introduced me to the great world of history and politics. And the two are so interconnected. Yeah. And basically, while in first form, he published a book called 50 Movers and Shakers, which was a book about, basically a biography of 50 prominent politicians on St. Martin who, did something of significance to help move the island forward, you could say. And when he wrote that book, when he was doing his, I guess you could say his press run, he took me along with him to PJ2, and PJ2 is the oldest radio stations on the island.
Yep.
Definitely for a long while carried its title as a voice of St. Martin. And when he did that, I remember sitting with him and Lloyd Richardson, who, was the king of afternoon talk radio at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I love this place. Just walking in and the interaction I had with persons who called in on the program, it was amazing. And I was like, I think I see this in my future. But another great thing that Mr. Cook did was that he would encourage his class to write. He encouraged us to write. So he would ask us to share our opinion on, issue on St. Martin. And then after that, we would submit it to him, and he would send it to the Herald to publish, to the letter to the editor. And, newspaper, especially back in the day, was like a big thing, So it was like, seeing your name next to an article in the newspaper was like, whoa, I made it. So the thing is, overall, I ended up then joining Teen Times, which is still to this day the only youth newspaper on the island. And basically from there, I recognized that as I become more and more passionate about wanting to learn and study history, that there could be more material for my generation, but there wasn't. And it already wasn't in the curriculum. Yeah. And so I guess because of my desire to, study the past, my love for the past, I realized that, hey, with journalism and writing, I basically say, journalism is history in the present. Yeah. Which is, the stories that I document today by tomorrow it becomes old news. That in itself makes it history.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized, in order to um, give the next generation of Samatnas, upper hand, let's say, than that what we had, I said, well, I definitely see myself going into the journalism field. One, because I always wanted to inform people, and educate people, share what I learned, what I know, what I've learned, and that's something I continue to do. I realize that this is really one of the perfect ways to go, especially now that we have the internet and so forth, which makes it easier to research because, a student who's doing research can easily look up my articles and find credible information, good information to use, whether it's for a project or just for their individual personal study.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember when I started off with radio. Well, no, not yeah. When I started off with radio, I had my radio name was Professor. But that came about through a friend of mine in high school, who called me Professor because I always listen anything I learned like on YouTube. Next day in school, like I'm the YouTube professor, you could say. So I had a period where I remember in third form, the summer vacation, before I entered fourth form, I spent the whole summer learning about African history, and my mind was blown away by the
Mm-hmm.
wealth of knowledge. I'm like, none of us know these things. We don't learn this in school.
No.
And because I remember being in maths class, like, well, I mean, think like we gotta learn mathematics because our ancestors created mathematics. I was like, I was on a hotep vibe. I can't like, I was that hotep friend for real.
That's a new one. I never thought.
Yeah,
I never thought that would have been a like
that
an
would be me, right?
argument.
But yeah, listen, that was me through and through. But eventually you become more mature. You learn to process the information differently.
Yeah.
But I can happily say I'm doing what I love, and I love what I do.
Oh, that's great. And I know you mentioned that. I guess your first big experience was like in the radio realm, and then of
Yeah.
course you do radio and writing. Which forms of medium do you enjoy the most? Like, do you enjoy writing the most, or do you enjoy like doing radio interviews the most?
Wow, that's good. I love them both so much. I would say writing though. Writing has always been dear to my heart
Mm-hmm.
because I've always had a desire to master different forms of writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as far as writing plays, so I'm also a poet, by the way. My second book is actually a book of poetry.
Ooh, nice.
Spoken word, writing speeches, skits, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go with writing, although I really love doing the interviews and stuff. Writing. Yeah, I love shaping a narrative, and yeah, man, I just love the ability to bring words together. Great magic.
Honestly, if school wasn't really on my case right now, I'd probably spend most of my days just writing away, just writing away.
I could imagine. And I
Honestly.
remember I had a professor who always used to say, if you can write, you can do anything. And that is so true.
Mm-hmm.
And when you understand the power of writing, writing is basically weightlifting of the mind, when you think about it, because you are really challenging your brain to think and process information and then, create an output, right? So with writing, I think one of the things I enjoy most is just that ability to capture
Mm-hmm.
reality in text and also create it,
Yeah,
you know? So yeah.
I agree. And so then you're back. You came back from school recently. How about what, a year or two ago? I would say graduated.
Came back March 2020. Yeah, so a year and change.
Yeah. So now you're technically this now new young journalist on St. Martin. So how
Yep.
is it like being that young journalist, and especially you talked about earlier you enjoy educating people. So how do you focus more on educating instead of being, I guess, sensational?
Ha, that's a great question. So when I came back home, I freelanced. I freelanced with Kativish Network,
Mm-hmm.
which is based in the Netherlands. That would publication you could say that focused on news that happened in the islands within the Dutch Kingdom. And I just freelanced in general, writing for basically like some companies and stuff. But then it hit me. I was like, man, okay, I want to go in a different direction. I realized, and many people can agree, like the media in Samana it started to go down real fast.
Yeah.
So you probably have to be brutally honest, and particularly as far as credibility is concerned, but also um, quality content. So like as far as independent, in-depth research or investigative stories in particular.
Yeah.
So, coming on the scene now, it was pretty interesting as far as breaking out, because while I'm new, I studied journalism and whatnot, people still have to get used to you.
Yeah.
The good thing is that I realize, if I include the time I've been, like my time writing since teen times and being in radio even before I left away to go to school, I realized, man, I've been in the game for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a benefit for me because people respected my voice, what I wrote. And to be honest, when I write in particular news, I may share a couple posts or tweets with my opinion, but when I'm writing news, I keep it very, very straight to the point, as far as facts, and the truth, because I realize that too many times you can read a publication, a blog, or even if they've been established for some time, and you see clear biases, even errors.
Yeah.
So it is definitely quite some work to do as far as making a name for myself in regards to raising the bar, because a lot of people honestly have gotten comfortable with the sensationalist headlines that, back in the day it was BBM, right?
Yeah.
And that made their way through Facebook, and that made their way through, but now it's WhatsApp or maybe Twitter. Samantha's not that big on Twitter.
Which I'm kind of glad for. We need to stay off of Twitter.
Yeah, Samantha's like Facebook dominates Samantha, really, Facebook and WhatsApp.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I realize, just remain consistent. One of the things I always make clear is that I do this out of not just a passion for it, but out of integrity. If it boils down to doing it for the money, you can be easily bought. That's and
yeah.
Island has a history of that. Unfortunately, with some media personnel, in different sectors or professions on the island.
Yep.
But my goal is remain consistent in what I'm doing. I had a professor always say, in journalism, you have no friends. And
yeah,
I'll be honest with you, I really hold that tight, because for me, I'm the type of person where I am loyal, but I'm most loyal to my values. I'm most loyal to godly principles. You can be my friend, but let's say, you work at a company and find out that, well, you embezzle funds and it's major news. I can't say, well, hey, you my friend, I just, I gonna try write a nice, I gonna write it nice, or a sort of maybe a payola type of thing. And at the same time too, it's not even just about writing, let's say, quote unquote, bad news. Because I do have an interest, and one of the things I did is write positive stuff, you could say. I would, I with my writing, I would sometimes add, there's a lot. If you look closely enough, there's always something good happening at St. Martin. I would, launch an article that highlights something positive in the community. But overall, I guess my main point is that I believe in working by the book, and to the T. I definitely expect to make mistakes. And no one becomes great without it. But as much as possible. I'm dead set on just doing it right and doing it different from what we see right now. And I think one people have gotten tired of, you know, the sensationalism. They might of course still read it, whatever it's melee sells, you could say.
Yeah.
But they know that where they're reading it from is not credible, you know?
Yeah.
And so I am set on, I'm really set on change and raising the level of journalism, media on St. Martin. And that is whether it's through whether it's through written work or my radio stuff, even if it's social media based, whatever it is, you know. Um, I'm set on raising the bar.
No, that's great. No, that's great because credibility is very important. And I
Mm-hmm.
always found it like interesting in the sense of how we do journalism back home because for a while, up here I used to work for a student newspaper before I transitioned into student government. And
Mm.
the main thing that they keep hammering on you, never take anything, even if it's a bottle of water, don't take nothing from things you're covering. Like
Yep.
stay true
Yep.
to yourself, do this. Like it's just things that they keep hammering into
Yep.
you. So then
And
sometimes
it's funny
seeing
you mentioned that. It's so funny you mentioned that because I remember going to a press briefing and seeing a reporter just even accept some tea from the government. Like, I
yeah.
was like, whoa, really? And I will never forget my internship I did with I interned with NPR station in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, my mother, I mean, I grew up like that. You don't eat from people, you don't take things from people.
Yeah.
I grew up like that. Some people are used to going to restaurants, not me. I love home food, period. And I came from a Haitian background, and if anyone knows Haitian cuisine, that is like, I mean, it's hard to beat. But I remember this one time, my news director, she sent me out to um, the capital to cover this lobbyist meeting about a health bill
Mm-hmm.
in Florida, for Florida, for the Florida state. And the event was held at this beautiful, beautiful dining hall and whatnot. And man, I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of vexed because when you see the food that came out, it was so tempting. But the thing is, when I saw several reporters going and just comfortably taking food, I was like, what wrong with all you, dread? So yeah, I feel you on what you said there. So
Yeah. No, like sometimes you just gotta bring your own water. You just gotta bring your own tea because like
yeah.
it can start off with that and then next thing you know,
Mm-hmm.
someone giving you a check to write positive things about you. And then you kind of mess up the whole spectrum on what is news that is being presented.
And remaining neutral, and that is the thing, it's like it's sort of like what a like the Bible, when the Bible says, basically, if the devil approaches you, I'm paraphrasing some scripture, it's very simple, but it basically say, like, let the devil find nothing, let you be found with nothing belongs to the devil.
Mm-hmm.
If you get what I'm saying, it's like there can be no claim that someone can have on you. No one can say, hey boy, yo, you want Ralph to write some good about you, boy, just give him $100, he gonna take care of you. Nah. Like,
Yeah,
no one should be able to say, you should be without reproach, basically.
that is very true. And so like going into those type of interviews, I guess with those big type of people. So you have this program now, the midday program News Behind the News. I see you trying to take out the competition, but that's okay. You know. And so far you have all these guests. I know you started off with an ombudsman, and
Mm-hmm.
recently I see your latest episode was with a realtor.
Yeah.
And so how has it been doing this program? And then like which episodes has been your favorite so far?
Ooh, that's pretty tough. I've always loved interviews. Always. I love sitting down to talk to people. And I thank God for my mom, especially because my mom, from young, always used to tell me, you don't look at anybody different. Meaning to say, we are all the same. No
Mm-hmm.
one, and you especially don't look down on people. And because that is one of the things I personally, if you're trying to get me crossed, disrespect somebody in front of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For real. But nevertheless, um, with that, I think having that mindset makes it easy to talk to anyone really. Because and another great thing about journalism is that everyone has a story.
Yeah.
And I'm a person who I don't, even with my friends and stuff, I don't like when people sulk around me or feel insecure about themselves because now, like, you matter. The fact that you're alive matter. It reminds me of a quote from Dr. Matthew Stevenson, and I said, great men and women are born for the time that they're needed most, and the reason that you're still here is because God is not finished with you yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that in itself is kind of like a mantra for me. But overall, yeah, main thing is that I love talking to people, but also, again, there's so much information out there. There's so much information that people need.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just can't get it. It's not enough to just get it from a government website or from a press release. You need to get, there's more you can take out of people. And I realize in a country like ours, people tend not to want to speak too much about a written story. But if you have a conversation with someone, they may be more willing to sit down and share what they know. Um, because, and that is, I think, that advantage you could say of even podcasting, the interviews that I do and stuff, is because usually most of my interviews are like 50 to 55 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say maybe 50 minutes is like the sweet spot of generally.
Yeah.
And imagine writing out 50 minutes worth of an interview.
Yeah.
That's a lot of editing, it's a lot of transcribing. But to sit and listen is different because
Yeah.
one, you can always go back and listen again. Um, you can sit down and watch it, or you can just play it and listen to it. And also I realized that, it makes it, I think it just simply overall makes people more open, to share what they know. So, so far it's been going, the show has been going really great. Of course, you can definitely see the diversity because, and again, I feel like there's a lot of people, there's many people on the island that have something worth sharing.
Yeah.
It's not just the politicians. Like, yes, I do feature politicians.
Mm-hmm.
I do feature, I do intend, like, have some, like, maybe some senior civil servants, you could say. But I have members of the business community, of institutions. I have, like, for example, I had like Marvia Cooks, for example.
Yep.
Marv is a well-known guy, very passionate about technology and digital education. I was like, hey, Marvia, come on the program, talk, like, share some
Yeah.
information. What can parents look out for? What, share some tips with us. I have people in business, and one set of people I particularly love featuring are artists, because
Yeah.
we have people who make a livelihood, who are professionals, in art, whether it's music, dance, sports, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, basically through the program is that I can break down a lot of barriers. Let's say, open up a world of opportunities and knowledge to people. And I think it was Frederick Douglass who said, knowledge makes one impossible to be a slave. And
Yep.
so I'm just no, I was gonna say I'm just trying to free my people, but I wanted to quote a movie, and it shouldn't give me the mind Amistad, right? Just give it us free. So yeah.
Or
Oh, but my favorite one, ooh, that is tough, man. That is tough because yeah, it's tough. I would say though, Andrew Dick.
that one was good.
And why Andrew Dick? Because it was a touchy subject, very
Yeah.
touchy. And he didn't shy away from speaking about it.
Yeah.
And there are many people on this island who have to deal with someone in their family who has a issue, who is addicted to some sort of substance. It is draining in so many ways, and seeing him basically be restored. I mean, he's now back to doing his show.
Yeah.
He's still under the care of some professionals, but to see where he was and to see him now, I felt like that is what St. Martin needed to say that, um, let's not be the ones to condemn people. People make mistakes in the past. Some things, that we may really detest, but people can change.
Yeah.
And I found he represented that.
No, yeah, and I think that actually when I saw that you had that conversation with him, I was actually very excited because, you know, we come from an island that's so small that, you have all these societal taboos that, you can't do this if you're part of this. If this happened to you, you don't really speak about it. So I guess that, opens up another conversation that we don't really talk a lot about in regards to substance abuse and, the access to it, why people might use it, how do you get,
Mhm.
through the different systems and stuff. So honestly, when I saw that interview was up, I said, okay, this may, help change some conversations, change some directions as well. So that was really good.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
No, no problem. And why did I just lose my train of thought? This is why you don't do things
It
the same.
happens.
This
Trust
is
me,
why
it happens. Even when I do as much as I've been doing interviews for years. It happens.
no, honestly, you would think like been doing this since I was like probably 8, and sometimes I still blank, and I'm just like, okay, where's the next part? Where's the next part? But so you're not just doing your own personal thing. I know one of the I guess another big projects that you and 3 other people are working on is with the Melee podcast. So can
Yeah,
you like go into depth on like how did that started? And I know that will tie into your love for history as well. And
yeah,
then
yeah.
just how the 4 of you guys come together to just like, okay, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna break down cinematic history.
Yeah, that's a great question. That started with Jonathan as
Mm-hmm.
far as um him bringing us together because I remember as I've known all of them. Jonathan, I knew the longest because me and his sister went to school together.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Math School, Campus One, big up one
Big up
time.
campus one time. Yeah.
He went
Okay.
to Dominic though, so that's only mistake. But
Wow. We'll deal with that later. It's okay.
um, but then I also met Steffi a good amount of years back through two mutual friends. And Carla, I was aware of, and I also met her through a mutual friend. So in a sense, all of us kind of knew about each other. And Jonathan, he was doing his own history, and then he touched base with all of us. I guess, in our own individual platforms, we've all clearly have bombarded people about, some of the history and all of that, right?
Yeah.
So then Jonathan just created he created a, yeah, Instagram group. He was like, "Hey, listen, like, can we all just get together and do something?" And we didn't think it would have been that, how to say, it would have been what it is now. I guess I
Mm-hmm.
would, because our first episode was last year on Emancipation Day.
Yeah.
And the good thing is that I was working at a radio station at the time. So I was like, hey, well, if we're going to do this, I mean, the station is available. Yeah, let's just do this thing. And we literally did it. And it's been going on a year now. I mean, we first started doing it just through Zoom for a year.
Yeah.
And then we were streaming on Facebook, but now, thankfully, it is yeah, it's now available on all streaming platforms as a podcast. So we basically, knowing that we all have some full schedules and
Yeah.
whatnot, we decided, we can afford to do this thing every other Saturday. And we're now basically planning for our third season actually. So although
Ooh.
we're not on every Saturday, like people would love to, we're busy planning. We of course revamped our social media page. So that is all part of the game. So in the meantime, we do have some surprise episodes, some pop-up episodes planned, you could say.
Mm.
But overall, I'm just glad, that we were able to connect because we all share that common thing of wanting to have been taught all of this in school. But thankfully, I think the great thing about us come together, even like the podcast you have, when I think of
Mm.
like Sailor Sis as well, and all the
Yes.
others, is that we're flooding the market, you could say, with content. So
Yes.
again, students, I remember being in a library doing some research. And this girl from academy, I think she was in Fort Farm. She said, she's like, "You're Ralph Cantave?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah." I was like, "Me know you. I don't. You're definitely not a sibling of none of my friends. Like, you know my name." She said, "Yeah, I check y'all on Facebook or the History Podcast." I said, "Whoa, really?" I said, "How old are you?" I said, "What farm you in?" I was like, "Wow." So that alone, that alone shows. Well, yeah, like the youths, they're listening. They're definitely listening. They're
No,
interested,
yeah.
and again, it's goes back to even why I do journalism is like because 10 years from now, 5 years from now, even next year, there will be some content that people can listen to, can go back to, and
Yeah.
read and stuff, and yeah, be educated,
That is very true. And you're right next year because the amount of things that has happened in these
bro.
11 months, I'm just like, can we keep up? I can't keep up. Like, I don't even know what
Yeah,
happened yesterday anymore.
it's
It's
kind
just
of
like,
hard to keep up, indeed,
it's just like,
especially politically. It's like, oh my, I mean, bro.
oh no, yeah. The news from this last week, I was watching, so I have this interesting habit of doing over multitasking. So I was on the phone with my mother. I was in a Zoom meeting and I was watching Parliament when MP Boncampo announced his becoming independent. And it
Yeah,
was just like me and my mother on the phone just screaming for like 10 seconds. And
yeah,
it
like
was a
like
lot happening.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the news is definitely pushing. And but just to wrap up my last final question, and
Let's
I know
go.
you mentioned earlier you were talking about, you know, your husband, you're a family man, but you're still pretty young, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, I
So
mean, I'm 26. So
yeah, so
I got
like,
married at 21.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm 22 and I'm just here chilling. Like, what, Ralph? Okay, but so like you have all these different aspects of your life, professionally and personally. How do you balance all these different factors in your life, but still find a way to produce this high level content for people to consume?
Good question. Um, One, my faith in God. That is my foundation. Uh, my trust, my belief. Like I said, my faith in God. For me, faith is a definitive factor. It is, like I tend to say when I speak to people, like faith is a fact. Faith is final. As the Bible says, evidence of things not seen. Um, and so basically, I always knew what I wanted, and I think that is one of my best. Like that is my advantage. And I won't say advantage as if like advantage over others, but
Yeah.
the advantage for my life. Like I knew I wanted to be in media from before I even graduated high school.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wanted to do some sort of business, and that's knew I wanted to do what I love. Like yeah. Then also when before I met my wife. And funny thing is, I'm definitely a new school married story. I met her on Facebook. I was quote unquote researching.
Now go to good research.
And I was like, boy, I was digging through her pictures, looking at mutual friends and stuff, all of that. Even like one by mistake, an old one. But
Oh no.
but then too, and then I started liking a bunch of her pictures. I was like, listen, you gonna get my attention. So so I was successful the second time
Good job. Okay.
because I was like, yeah, because I remember like we started talking a little bit, whatever. We met each other a few times and stuff. I said, let me ask her out, I mean, it's like, yeah, like duh. And I asked her out and she was like, nah, it's okay. And I was like, you did not just turn me down. Like, I'm asking you out. And I was like, this girl, something wrong with this girl. I'm asking you out, you gonna tell me no? I was like, well, I guess I gonna move on. You're the one missing out.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but hey, God is good, you know. was told to old friend of hers at the time was like, "Man, Ralph, don't give up too soon and whatnot." And I said, "Okay, fine. I'll go. I'll try at it again." Come to find out, she was just doing it on purpose to see if I was serious. But I was. And again, I'm a man of faith, and I knew. Like I remember being in the auditorium in LB Scott, sitting down with a friend of mine. I was like, "Yo, I can marry Charity." Like we barely were close to each other then, but I just knew.
You just
So,
do it.
and that's what I mean by my advantage, I guess. God has just given me that insight as to what is for me, you could say, and I'm focused on what is for me. That is not what other people have and stuff, and that's how I live my life, and I hope that others can learn from. Because yeah, man, to juggle all this is not easy because in addition to while I got married young and stuff, we still had some challenges because one, we long distance.
Yeah.
We had a long distance marriage for a year and a half, and listen, that's not easy at all,
Yeah.
especially running a business. That definitely took a toll on me mentally. I didn't even realize the mental health struggle I went through because of the way in which I cope with it, and so I'm very open with that as concerned. I thank God that I can go to sleep peacefully knowing that in that time, I've been a stand-up guy. As I said from the beginning, integrity, godly principles matter to me. Um, you know, so to do all of that, still manage to produce and so forth, yeah, it's not easy. I guess it looks easy, but even when you do something you love, there are times you feel like, man, is this worth it and stuff, But
Yeah.
then something happens and you're like, yep, this is for me. I got to make a difference, and I'm not going back.
Yeah. That is very true. That is very true. You got some goals, you got some things, you just keep moving forward and moving forward, everything. And so I did say that question was my last question, but I like this is now my last question. And I tend to like to wrap up each episode on like a more, I guess, lighter question, funner note, etc. So I guess my fun question for you, St. Martin's Day was last week. So, how did you enjoy St. Martin's Day, it being COVID-2, etc.?
Well, St. Monday equals St. Martin. I mean, it's literally like a poster we created for the business. St. Martin equal Johnny Cakes,
Oof.
We were busy working. Yeah. We actually catered for the relay race that they do around the island.
Nice.
So we were pumping out hundreds of Johnny Cakes that day. But besides that, I got to rest afterwards though. So it was a relaxful, peaceful day. We are coming up on the holidays. We actually have St. Martin Thanksgiving Day, which I know a lot of us are not familiar with. That's the first Sunday in December.
Yes.
Of course, to give thanks for
the ending of the hurricane season. And
that's right. Especially, yes. I mean, thank God, like we got nothing this year. I pray that. Yeah.
I was getting a little scared because everybody was like,
it is, especially like now. Imagine people stuck up in a shelter with COVID. Yeah. Nah, that sounds like a calamity, right?
It does.
So, and we got that. We got Christmas coming up. But through it all, I'm looking. I think the bottom line is, I prioritize rest as well. It's important to relax the mind, take a break, take a little pause, treat yourself, focus on your family, of course. But still, the bottom line for me is to make a difference to what I do and inspire future generations to do even greater.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. So thank you so much for doing this interview with me this afternoon. Wow, I still don't know how to speak, but it's fine.
You need to come back home and get your bush tea.
Look, I'm just like trying to figure out like if somebody can send me some lemongrass, or you can lift us something. Like it's getting ridiculous right now. But how can everybody find all your different content? So from where you post news, where you post the interviews, to your books, everything.
Okay. So as far as my news, for now, it's usually posted on my Facebook page, Ralph Cantave. That's news being written stories, you could say.
Yes.
Interviews on my YouTube page, Ralph Cantave as well. And my second book, because my first book, I guess all those who have a copy is like a prized possession because I stopped the production of it.
Oh, I have a
Um,
copy home.
oh, great. So I'm basically I'm gonna revamp it. Let's say it's in the works to do something new. Because I wrote that, you know, again, I've always been a person like anything that comes to my mind, I'm set on doing, I will do it.
Yeah.
I always wanted to write a book. I was like, cool, I'll just write a book. But I did that before I went away to college and stuff. So while I would consider myself a good writer at the time, knowing what I know now, especially methods of research, writing, formatting, and stuff, I would, I guess, just revamp the book. So do a volume 2, you could say, or second edition. My second book, my poetry book, is available on Amazon and Kindle as well. So it could be ebook or paperback. And that would be all for me for now.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again. And once again, this was episode 5 of season 2 of the We Talking podcast. And we will see you next episode. Bye.